It's such a joke. I mean, it's like, I love the names that they give it. It's like forgiveness. Oh, who's not pro forgiveness? You know, this policy works very simple. You take out a loan and then you pay it back with interest. That's how it goes. It's how it's gone from the beginning of time up until this guy was facing a midterm prospect that he didn't like. And suddenly, in the way Barack Obama took out his pen and his phone and did things on illegal immigration that he said he couldn't have done for months and months prior, did something he and Nancy Pelosi and others, including in the Obama administration, have all said he does not have the power to do, which is just erased debt, which essentially means transferring it onto the rest of us. What do you make of it?
Oh, economically, obviously, it's horrible, but that's not the thing that bothers me the most. I mean, they're saying it could cost up to $600 billion, which is just fuel on the fire of inflation. But it really is the moral part of it that bothers me. And it bothers me on a lot of different levels. The most basic thing in the world is you borrow money, you pay it back. I mean, that is one of the most basic obligations. It is lawless to just sweep it away with a wave of your hand. This is not a congressional act. This is not a law that's been changed. It's just a decision by one kingly chap who happens to be in the White House. And I don't see how it can withstand any kind of judicial scrutiny, any kind of moral scrutiny. And it's just so wicked at that level. It's wicked to say you can borrow money, but you don't have to pay it back. And it's wicked to say it to anybody when Bernie Sanders says, well, they do it to corporations. Well, don't do it to corporations either. I mean, when you borrow money, you should pay it back. But it's also terrible in the sense that it is subsidizing this credentialized society, which has rendered, among other things, has rendered our press corrupt and idiotic. I mean, in the old days, when you were a reporter, you were probably a guy without a college education, but who was smart and who could write. And you probably had a bit of a chip on your shoulder and you wanted to take down anybody with power. And that was a good thing. You didn't care if he was Republican or Democrat. I was a reporter, in a small town newspaper. I worked with leftists. I worked with right wingers. All we wanted to do was make powerful people look bad. But once you started going to journalism school, once you started credentializing reporters, they became part of the ruling class. And so they support whatever supports the ruling class. The reporters you see now are not tough guy journalists with their snap brim hats and their press cards in the band. These are guys who are aspiring to be the people that they cover. And you also have people who don't know anything, but they have their credentials. I mean, we all remember Obama's aide, Ben Rhodes, telling the New York Times, frankly, you guys don't know anything, so we could sell you anything we wanted. You don't know anything because you're children. And meanwhile, those children can storm into the offices of the editor-in-chief and tell them the way they want things covered because that's the way they were taught in college. All of that is being subsidized by the government to cover up the fact that it actually has made people more incompetent. It has actually made people's lives worse. And finally, why is college so expensive? It hasn't gotten more expensive because the professors are just so brilliant and really are educating our children at new levels. It's gotten so expensive because of these layers upon layers of administration, many of them with briefs like diversity or rooting out bias. And they also make our lives worse and they make college life worse. If you pay somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars to find bias, the one thing you can bet is they're not going to find no bias. That's not what's going to happen because their job depends on finding bias. It depends on stirring up trouble. I've had at least one riot start because of me giving a speech at a college. I've had people vandalize the places where I was going to speak. And every single time, people who incited that violence were not the students. It was not radical snowflakes who just got it into their heads that they had to take me down. It was always flyers that were sent to them by the administration, pulling things I had said out of context to make me sound hateful and small-minded and cruel. And that stirred the students up. So it really is funding. What we now have is government funding people who want to be part of the ruling class and then get jobs in the culture. You have the government funding these layers of administrative aides who do nothing but basically condone left-wing points of view, the kind of thing you were just talking about people condemning each other for their races. And then finally, you have government subsidizing dishonesty, taking out loans and not paying them back. It's a moral disaster. It really is. I think it may well be the worst thing this administration has done up there with its chaotic retreat from Afghanistan.
There's so much in there I want to talk about. I really want to get to your thoughts about colleges and universities and, the ruling class and what they're teaching now, because you're, the best read person ever. So how do we get like that without going to college is one of my questions. But let's table that for right now, because I want to stay on the hard news before we get to the more philosophical questions. There was a report in March 2022 via the Bureau of Labor. The unemployment rate right now for people who have a bachelor's degree or higher, the people who are getting this, quote, forgiveness, is the lowest of any group. It's 2.2%, lowest. The unemployment rate for people 25 years and older who only have a high school degree is 4.5%. They will be paying for the other group. So the people who are the working class, who Biden said yesterday, this is for the working class. No, it isn't. That's not true. The working class is going to be paying off the loans of the so-called upper class or upper middle class. This helps people, families, it could be just a couple, that makes up to $250,000 a year that have advanced degrees from Wharton. They can get this relief. Why should some trucker listening to us right now on Sirius XM have to pay for those two?
Well, you get what you vote for is all I can say. I mean, listen, I have two sons-in-law who are attorneys. Both of them have had college debt, and I'm looking forward to Uber drivers paying off their college debt, because that is exactly what's going to happen. It is a remarkable thing, and it wouldn't happen if our press weren't so corrupt, but it's a remarkable thing that the Democrats and socialists in general have repeatedly been able to sell socialism to the people it hurts most. Socialism, every time it's put into operation, and even when it's only put into operation piecemeal, like we're doing it here, it eliminates the middle class. I mean, they've got $80 billion to send to the IRS for new auditors. Who do you think they're going to be going after? Jeff Bezos isn't losing any sleep about that, but people who make $200,000 to $400,000 are definitely going to get hit, because that's where the money is. So if you're making $70,000, $60,000, you can be sold on the idea that those people are rich. But if they were rich, they wouldn't have to worry about the IRS, because they could dodge the payments. What happens is it's the middle class that goes. It's the people, the Uber drivers are going to lose their money paying for the college educated. The college educated are going to lose their money being audited by the IRS. And ultimately, what socialism always does is it leaves you two classes instead of a step of classes, several steps of classes. All it leaves is the poor and the powerful on whom they depend. And that works really well for dictators. It works really well for socialists, but it doesn't work well for the rest of the country. The thing about capitalism is you can always point to the unfairness of capitalism, and life is unfair. There's no question about it, but it's a graded unfairness. There are people who are at the bottom, but there are also steps upwards, and you can move up those steps through capitalism. The more the government takes over, the more they pay for things, the more that middle class has to be sucked dry of its money to keep those payments afloat. And the more that middle class disappears, the more you have a poor class dependent on a powerful class. And that is exactly what the Biden plan is doing. You can see it. I mean, you can see it. The IRS agents are there to take out the upper middle class, and these loan transfers are there to basically take out the lower class, giving their money to the upper middle class, who will then be taxed, will have it taxed away. And so it really is a disturbing idea that people are so gullible that they can be ginned up emotionally by cultural issues and let their freedoms be taken away. The government is never, ever paying for something. It's always buying. It is always buying something. There's no such thing as free. The word free is not an English word. It doesn't describe any realistic thing except maybe the moon and the stars are free to look at, but nothing else is free. And so when the government tells you free healthcare, your first question should be, what's it going to cost me? And what it's going to cost you is your independence.
Like so many people, I am eating healthier these days, and that is why I love good olive oil. And by good, I mean fresh. Olive oil packs the most flavor and the healthiest nutrients, and it's part of the non-hateful eating program I am on. Now, it's the best, though, when it comes fresh from the farm. And that is the problem with supermarket olive oils, because they're not fresh. They can sit on the shelf for months growing stale. Did you know that? That's why I love my olive oil direct from small award-winning farms, thanks to a guy named TJ Robinson, also known as the olive oil hunter. Now, they sent me this stuff free to try it before they advertised on the show, because what if I hated it? I'm not going to tell you to buy it. actually is delicious, and it actually does taste better than the store-bought olive oil. You'll see for yourself. When I first tasted TJ, their farm fresh oils, I fell in love with the vibrant flavors. They are incredibly delicious. I put it on salad. I put it on veggies, pasta. I do all my meat, my fish in this olive oil now, you name it. As an introduction to his fresh pressed olive oil club, TJ's going to send you a full size. This is what I got. Nice tall bottle of one of the world's finest artisanal olive oils. It's worth $39. It's fresh from the new harvest. You're going to get it for $1. For $1. That just covers the shipping cost. Best of all, with TJ's Club, there is never a commitment to buy anything, now or ever, and you can cancel your membership at any time. So get your free $39 bottle for just $1 shipping and taste the difference freshness makes. See if you can taste the difference as I have. Go to harvestfreshnow.com. Harvestfreshnow.com for a free bottle. Pay just that $1 shipping. Check it out at harvestfreshnow.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.